right, guys, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. To get right into it, former Army Secretary urges U.S. to, quote, wake up and prepare for the worst against Chinese aggression. Former, of course, Army Secretary Patrick Murphy is sounding the alarm on China's increased military aggression that has led to an inevitable breach of U.S. sovereignty, pressing Americans to understand that we're the underdog here. His comments come Sunday after the Pentagon released his statement Saturday, revealing that the U.S. military took down a third high-altitude airborne object over northern Canada. Now, of course, this is supposedly, they have not provided evidence of these. They say that they have found no debris, but again, maybe there's something that they don't want to show us. Who knows? But it says that the quote here, this is pretty telling. So when we shot that one down, it was over Canadian airspace. It was an American fighter jet, F-22, but I think we're sending the message of what would happen, you know, in UKR. Obviously, we had this incredible coalition, as you know, pushing back on the Russian invasion. And I think it's sending a message, hopefully sending the right message to China that the world will rally around us if they keep messing around it. It says what people need to understand in our great country is that we are the underdog here. We're a third of their size, and I'm not just talking about geographical and population. So these are some pretty big comments to be made. I do want to point out we're going to be covering massive cellular outages around the country, and nobody has even mentioned it yet. Again, cell service, it should be back, but even landline phones, all of the major three companies, then the subsidiaries of all of those went down. We'll show you that on a down detector. That was just about an hour and a half ago. And nobody even noticed. And again, you could say that's maintenance, whatever. We'll talk about that later. But to have it go down across the board like that in so many different cities, it's pretty alarming. Most people wouldn't even notice because they didn't try to call or text somebody. But when you did, it said basically not registered on a network. It is still doing that here. In fact, we're doing a late show tonight because we had nothing. No internet, no phone, no nothing, and two different companies. So again, we'll talk about that, the featherly plume, and I jokingly put it that, but this is extremely serious. We're going to be talking about the plume over Ohio, which is now a black billowing cloud, which is possibly a toxic air event. This is all stuff that needs to be talked about. Of course, a lot of people have basically brushed it over since it happened. But many in this community haven't stopped asking questions. They keep having Twitter spaces on this and keep digging, and the more they dig, the more weird things they find. Right now, as we speak, there is a risk that the entire Ohio River could be, something could be happening there. They have fish rising to the top, floating, perished in their place. So we'll talk about that and much, much more on tonight's Marfoogle News. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
Like a black or billowing cloud, bring it on up, bring it on up now. Like a black or billowing cloud, bring it on up, bring it on up now.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Before we get started, for anyone who is new here, go to marfooglenews.com, sign up for email alerts, and also sign up for notifications. You can actually get a notification pop up on a browser. Again, Chrome, it works. Again, we are trying to work on, of course, Apple, but on Android, you can get the notifications directly through your browser when we go live. Again, make sure to go over and check that out. And then, of course, make sure to also check out the full bibliography of the show. Every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today is archived over on our website. When you go there, it's very easy to navigate. Just look for today's thumbnail, Black Billowing Cloud, basically nuked, and then go to Featherly Plume Massive Cell Outage. Once you click on that, you'll find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document, plus a whole lot more. Speaking of which, I can't show this because of copyright, but man, what a creepy ad for the U2 UV Actong baby. Jacob Israel did a good video on this and kind of breaks down Actong meaning danger. And then it was just very creepy. It actually shows a video of these balloons. So they turned around and utilized this balloon thing pretty quickly for that. But yeah, that's over there, and tons of other stuff, including the overflow. The overflow is all the stuff that we couldn't fit into a small time period. So remember to go over there. There's all sorts of great stuff and the stuff that you would not talk about at the bar or the office. So make sure to go check that out. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, Dex, let's talk about this first comment here as far as... So many things are going on right now. We're going to be covering tonight. There's objects all over the place, and majority of people think this is a distraction. You actually did a Twitter poll, and I shared that as well, and we got a ton of votes on that. I think at least over 500 or something like that. Who knows what it's at now? But about 60% of people believed that the balloons were a big distraction. Well, now we basically have all sorts of balloons all over the world, dozens over Taiwan, 10 that they are saying that are over China, everywhere else. What do you think about what he is saying here? I feel like we're getting close, and that's my honest opinion about what is happening. Not trying to scare people. That's just with everything, the lasers, the satellites blowing up, the cell outages, and all of this other stuff. It's starting to get really nuts.
Well, I think one of the things that you're going to see before a conflict, if it's an orchestrated conflict, is going to be some form of propaganda that gets the public engaged in that narrative. And this is just my opinion. It's just my observation. It's possible that what we're seeing is part of that staging of getting. It's either it's Xi actually doing something that is specific to trying to understand how we're going to react in a defense position, or B, it is part of more of a messaging type thing to get people to go back to that idea that conflict is coming. Either way, it makes a lot of at least looks, in my opinion, that we're headed into conflict at some point. We're not headed down the path of like, let's get together, have trade deals, shake hands, everybody's going to be happy. We're moving further and further down that line to the edge of the cliff there, where we basically fall off into conflict. And that's what it looks like to me, whether it's orchestrated or not. Either way, it looks that way.
And I talk all the time about history repeating itself. There's a lot of events that have happened in the last couple years, from the Chinese embassy, things went down. We had this tit for tat, and then all of a sudden we found that our Chinese embassy here in the U.S. was burning documents. I mean, this is something Japan did before WW2. Of course, this is, a couple years ago. This is while the Huawei thing was going on. Of course, Huawei, that whole event happened. DJI was questioned, this drone company, if these drones were safe to have in our military, if they were possibly sending information back to Xi. And then, of course, TikTok, the, attempted ban of TikTok, or the talking of it, and all of these other events that have been going on. It's basically been getting really, really bad. I do want to point out, of course, over at Redacted, they did a video. I have not watched it yet, but the title pretty much says what I've been saying. Deja vu, they did the same thing to get us into WW2 and WW1. So I don't even have to really watch that to guess what some of these subjects are, because we have a lot of the history repeating itself and things going on and on and on, and all of these weird events keep happening. Now, if you do consider all this is all orchestrated, well, consider this. People thought the same about WW2 and WW1, and people still perished. In fact, there were certain parties that were funding both sides, all the way back to the civil conflict. You had families that would fund weapons for both sides. They would gift cannons to this side and cannons to that side so they could destroy each other. Just understand, the very richest people in the world don't have to get their hands dirty, and they don't care about anyone else's life. Think about how much your just normal friend is. Maybe he might be somewhat well off, and you've met a selfish rich person. But then imagine that where you're at a level where you're flying private jets around. I mean, like, that's the kind of people. Do you think that the selfish goes up with the amount of richness? I believe so. But again, think about that. They don't care about us. They don't care about our families. They don't care about our kids. Even though all of our kids are cute, they don't care. That's my opinion. What's yours? And thank the mods for being here. Make sure to go over to marfuglenews.com/friends. We've got all sorts of great mods, including Bones and Ilea and Lisar Hall. Again, thank you for all the prayers that have been heading to Lisa's way. Her daughter got in an accident and, again, was in critical condition. And she is now off the ventilator, and she was doing some things on her own. So those prayers do work. So thank you, guys. Let's go back into the news. Again, Eric Schmidt is building the perfect AI warfighting machine. Dex, do you want to go cover this? This is kind of nuts.
Well, this is, he's one of the founders of the OOG. He's also, they're also the company that just launched their own version of an AI chat GPT competitor that screwed up quite a bit in the release, in the ad. I think it had something, it was so bad it like dropped their stock price. It had false information in it. But they're now building, he is in charge of helping build what he's trying to claim as being perfect AI for the military industrial complex. So taking this notion of putting AI and putting it into not just autonomous or not just remote vehicles and drones, but making them where they can actually operate on their own, and they don't have to be small, they can be large, like tanks and other things.
Well, that is definitely creepy, and that's something we really need right now. Is we need more AI and more AI-powered weapons. Being sarcastic, of course. As far as AI goes, you probably know my opinion. And you've probably even heard me and Dex kind of go back and forth. Dex comes from, he looks at some of the more logical reasons why there are some helpful things that it can do. And of course, he's against the bad stuff. But when you look at how things can evolve and how we have evolved since, 10 years ago even, as far as things that we thought were scary at first but ended up being parts of our lives, I still believe, look at where we're at right now with phones in our hands, with cameras on the front and back, with fingerprint sensors that are tracking our every move, that are listening to us, watching us, everything else. And that sounds like a paranoid freak, right? But that's where it's evolved. As far as AI goes, you're not only talking about AI, becoming sentient like Free Guy, but you're also talking about AI with weapons attached. So this isn't something that they should be doing, or at least they should limit it. It should have oversight, but it does not. And that's why some of the smartest people in the world are more worried about AI than nukes, which again, AI could end up triggering nukes if they do gain control. As Elon Musk put it, which I thought it was a very, good way to put it, is it's not like they would want to, perish us or anything. It would be that if we were in a way, it would be kind of like humans building a road through an anthill. Are they going to build the road around the anthill, or are they just going to pave right over it? It's kind of how many people feel AI will be in the future. And then an AI agent flew a USAF training aircraft for over 17 hours. An AI agent. An artificial intelligence agent flew the Lockheed Martin Vista X 62A training aircraft for over 17 hours. It says Vista, which stands for Variable In-Flight Simulation Test Aircraft, can use software to simulate the performance and characteristics of other aircraft. On this occasion, it mimicked a human pilot instead. The flight took place during a testing period in December. This was the first time that AI has been engaged in such a way on a tactical aircraft. Lockheed Martin says, it says the aim is to use the platform to test aircraft designs that can be flown autonomously. Now, this is a training aircraft, and I don't believe they actually carry live weapons, or maybe they can, but maybe this one didn't. As far as they're not actually making the jet to be AI, they're basically putting this thing in that is its own little artificial intelligence unit, and then having it and then putting it in. It says Vista will allow us to parallelize the development and test the cutting new edge artificial intelligence technique with new uncrewed vehicle designs. U.S. Air Force Test Pilot School Director of Research Christopher Cotting said in a statement, this approach, combined with focusing testing on a new vehicle systems as they are produced, will rapidly mature autonomy for uncrewed platforms and allow us to deliver tactically relevant capability to our warfighter. Dex, go ahead.
So this, in my opinion, this is introducing the notion of AI to flight and military tactical flight. When I say introduce, it's because they've already had it. It's been known for a while, and I don't know if it's in production in the sense that they publicize this, but like an F-22 can take over for the pilot. If the pilot is flying in a dogfight and passes out or even makes the wrong move, the computer system can take over and finish that dogfight for them. And if it can fly a dogfight, it can fly from the ground to the sky and then back down to the ground all by itself. So make no mistake, this whole notion of AI has been, or at least autonomous flying has been in. A matter of fact, in 2020, an F-22 was saved because a pilot in Alaska was inverted and didn't realize it and heading down to the ground at 600 miles per hour. And the automatic system kicked in, flipped him over, and brought him back up before he smashed into the ground. So this has been in existence, but this kind of article is sort of bringing it to the forefront. It's sort of letting us feel good about AI coming to flight, but it's already been there. It's been there for many, many years.
Yep. I am, like we're talking autopilot, then it slowly got better and better and better, and then it would kick in at certain points. Kind of like the video of that guy that was the AI-driven kind of eject thing that happened. Do you remember that, where the Harrier jet was floating and he was off? You could see right when it levels out, it shot him out. If it shot him out at any other time, he probably would have been flung to his death because he was right on the ground. It ended up getting him up just enough. Go ahead, Dex.
That's an F-35, and that was also built off and reusing a lot of the platform of the F-22, both from Lockheed. And again, the story from Lockheed. And I have a lot of contacts that I've talked to at Lockheed that gave me a lot of this information.
So as far as what is happening with all, and by the F-35s took off from around here, that was just one event that I was like, oh, that's crazy. These are getting scrambled. After I tweeted that, many people came out and said that this has been happening for the last 2 weeks. And these aren't just like normal drills. These are like scrambling of jets. They fly up, they go somewhere, and then they come back down. That's where all of these balloon things come into place. We don't know what is actually happening. You can listen to the narrative on the news, but again, we don't know what the real truth is. And everybody has their guess. Everybody has their theory right now on what is happening with these balloons. And then everybody has side theories. I almost posted just a video talking about one of the more interesting one. They keep shutting down airspace around wherever this happens. Then they respond with jets. They clear out areas, and they shut everything down. Someone suggested that maybe asteroids were hitting. We have also, during the same few day period, we have actually had video of asteroids or meteors coming in, and people are catching these things coming in. That goes back to the overall theory that people believe that the Earth is flying through a debris field right now, and that something is heading our way that we don't know about, or an asteroid is heading our way, interstellar object or something that is going to be our demise. But back to the events right now, Of course, we had a flash above us. I sent that to you, Dex. Did you see that? Did you end up watching that?
Yeah, I did.
So we had a big blue flash above us, and I've seen meteors come in. A couple years ago, we had a bunch out of nowhere. So it could just be asteroid season and stuff was coming in. But people are actually believing that they're closing down the airspace around these areas and all over the world because asteroids are actually hitting our meteors, and they're trying to keep, it covered up. I don't necessarily believe that, but again, there's all sorts of theories on what is actually happening here. All of a sudden, their net to catch things up in the sky has just caught all sorts of stuff. Taiwan is saying there's dozens of objects floating above them or that have. China is saying there's at least 10 U.S. balloons above China right now. I mean, this is just getting insane. But all of those jets taken off. It's like, what is going on right now? NATO Secretary General, incidents with balloons over U.S. form part of pattern. See what's going on? It says recent incidents regarding balloons shot down by the United States, which suspects that they are surveillance balloons from China, form part of a pattern which highlights the need for NATO to be vigilant, said NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. It says what we saw over the United States is part of a pattern where China and also Russia are increasing surveillance activities on NATO allies. This is what we've been saying for months and months and months. There's surveillance activities, the Russian ship off Hawaii, the lasers scanning different places near our bases, the balloons over our bases, all of this stuff. This is what the police stations around the world being set up in NATO countries, the cyber events, that all sorts of different cyber outages that are happening. It seems like we are really, really close, but the public is going to be told until the very last minute that it's okay. Everything is fine. And that's why people are going to push back on you. They're going to, if you warn them like, hey, get your stuff, get your food ready. And then by next week, nothing happens. People are then, oh yeah, nothing's going to happen. That's why I always tell people if there's some sort of internet date going around the internet, you can generally go to your friends and go, hey, it would be a responsible thing for you to get food and water. But don't go bring them that possible bunk story on this date here. You need to be prepared because it's the end of the world. Because when that date comes and nothing happens, they won't believe you anymore. And they will think you're crazy. We have to try to spread awareness as much as possible without spreading panic. The panic is what they're avoiding. They're trying to not tell us that things are way worse than they are. And that's just my opinion. Tell me what yours is down in the comments down below. Am I crazy for thinking that we are close to something bad? I mean, our generation, this newest generation has not had its 2001, September yet. And a lot of us feel like something like that's coming. September of 2001, that was what got us into a 20-year conflict. Of course, Pearl Harbor got us into WW2, and you can go all the way back, Gulf of Tonkin stuff. I mean, there's always some sort of big event. U.S. military fighter jets on Sunday shot down an octagonal, and this is what's weird too, is they're saying that all of these are like Tic Tacs or this or that. I don't know. Object over Lake Huron, the Pentagon said the latest incident since a suspected Chinese surveillance balloon put North American security forces on high alert. By the way, they are admitting that North American security forces are on high alert. So they're telling us that military bases are on high alert. That did come out of different comments from not only Pentagon, but DOD. So it's pretty rare that we actually get to know. People talk about DEFCON. The DEFCON level at each base could be different. It could be at, DEFCON 1 here and DEFCON 2 at the one down the street, because they all have their own. And then we don't know, the public doesn't know what the actual kind of DEFCON system they're using. Back during 2001, they used to have like a color code for the public, like we're in a yellow or orange. But most people considered that propaganda. Like right now we're orange for an attack, that kind of stuff. But they got rid of that, and they still haven't brought anything back. But military members here believe we are at one of the highest DEFCON levels in general across the country. That would mean, whatever bases. And I'm starting to agree. Dex, do you have comments over this all of these objects, there's several, people think that it's JB trying to gain back respect or something. I don't think they care about him.
Well, at this point, I don't know that we've actually got any confirmation that anyone has seen anything other than the first balloon that came through. So I think that's, and I think we're going to talk about it in just a moment about the debris. Until we get some sort of, evidence back, I think it's going to be hard for us to know for sure what this is. And everybody's going to have all sorts of speculations, from aliens to G to, random nonsense. But it is clear our military, if our military is acting and what they're telling us is true, then they're doing it because there's a reason. And it could be, back to that Ganda topic, or it could also be there's a legitimate thing happening here. There's also been statements, I think, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, about what some of the reasons why they're trying to explain how they're all of a sudden finding new things. But I think this is, it's definitely in that realm of, is it legit, or is it, a distraction? I guess that's the thing everybody really wants to know.
Too legit to quit. Yep. And then we're going to talk about the Pentagon still has not recovered debris from the UFOs shot down in Alaska, Canada, and Michigan. We'll go over that in a second. But just take a second. Again, we are independent. We run our own show. We don't have a multi-channel network. We have the Mafia is backing us up. So this is an affiliate that we truly believe in and believe that will help people and will actually get people out of a really tight spot. This is an energy solar generator. It's actually one of the best and most coveted in the market. These things are built like tanks. The new X2 has come out that has the new lithium ion phosphate technology, which basically brags more charge cycles. To put that in perspective, this is, again, a solar generator that can gain power from solar panels or plug into the wall. In fact, you can charge it from 0 to 100% in 75 minutes. It's a UPS system, an uninterrupted power supply. So the second your power goes off, whatever is plugged into this, whatever power bar is plugged into this, it will automatically switch over to the generator. You can have it on standby at all times. But to put it into perspective, you could use this, fully charge it, then basically drain it for 16 years straight, doing it to 100% down to 3%, because you never really want to truly drain it. After 16 years, you would still have 80% of the built-in battery left. That is incredible. That means this thing, if you aren't using it every day or if you take care of it, either way, it's going to last decades. And if you feel how they are built, they are heavy, they're strong, they are just absolutely beautiful metal and wood. This thing will last a very long time. So it is an investment, but it's also a generator. It can essentially get power from the sun. You don't have $5 a gallon gas involved, and you also don't have to be a mechanic to maintain it. It's very, very simple. It's plug and play. I mean, you plug a solar panel, one cord from this to that, put it in your yard, and you're good. Again, and then also the Flex 1500. Both of these are amazing systems. This is their flagship system. I would highly recommend this for anybody who is bugging in. This is not only portable, so you can take it with up to 5 batteries in a single stack. It works like Lego. The bricks, which are the batteries, stack, and the input and output are on the top and the bottom. So essentially, they plug in with no external cords, and they can link and increase your capacity. You can actually expand this up to 96 batteries. When you go above 5 batteries, you do have one cord to go to the next stack of 5, but it definitely reduces the footprint. These are silent, which means they go stealth. Again, that's one of the most important part of this, and they are an extremely powerful tool. So next time you have a storm or a rolling blackout, you'll be able to hang out and do whatever you were doing before the power went out. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy, and not only will you get a huge discount, but you will also be supporting our small channel. Again, we are run completely off of our audience. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. Thank you. Dex, let's talk about Pentagon. Still has not received a single iota of any debris. Nothing. Like nothing.
The world's most powerful military at any time. we got to believe they have the ability to go somewhere and pick something up anywhere on this planet. In my opinion, I find it almost absurd to say we can't get to this stuff because of weather, or we can't get to this stuff for whatever reason they have to actually find the debris, tell us what it was, and show it to us. They don't want us to know, or it's not a priority. But I guarantee you, if there was something that was a priority to them, they could do it that day. They would get it done within a day. So it's amazing to me. I get it. I know it's maybe not overnight, but it's just it just seems a little disheartening, in my opinion, to think that all the might and power of our U.S. military can't find its way to an ice covered area in Alaska or in Canada or up near Lake Huron and actually,
it's a lie.
Boots on the ground and pick up the debris and tell us, is it a GoPro hanging from a Mylar balloon, or is it a serious piece of equipment that we need to be concerned about, or is it some other tech that we've never seen before? And they're just leaving us all in the dark on this, and it's very frustrating.
Well, it's because it's a lie, and that doesn't mean there's still a possibility they did take down something, but that means that they're either not telling us it didn't exist in the first place, they didn't take anything down, or they do not want the public to know the contents of what happened. If you look at how much, and I understand that these objects were supposedly smaller than the original one, but if you look at the pictures of what they say was the one off the ocean off of Myrtle Beach, you've got tons of pictures of just all sorts of crap. That happened over the ocean, and they were able to recover that much. And these, I don't know which ones were over ocean and lake and whatever else. Again, maybe there's a pattern here too. Are they all over either ice or water? Are they doing that so they, for stealth reasons? Or so if they do go down, they can't be found or something? Obviously, the first one went over the whole country. But for them to have no debris, not a single piece, sounds kind of like how there wasn't a piece bigger than a bread box at any of the locations during 2001, right? It just didn't make sense. So this is odd. It really seems like they are pushing us towards a world conflict. Dex, go ahead.
You're right. They have intentionally grounded these objects in places that people can't get to or easily get to. And I think that is important. When you think about this balloon coming across America, the first one, if they'd have downed that in the middle of America, I'm sure they would have scrambled and been there quickly. But there's a high probability that some other citizens would have been there that were already there at that place when it came down and would have seen it, would have taken pictures, would have looked at it, may have touched it, and may have revealed more information than they really wanted anybody to have. So I sort of look at this and say, yeah, it makes a lot of sense that they put these things down in locations where people can't actually go get to them themselves. And there is nobody there to provide evidence or third-party documentation.
Yeah, it's very convenient for anybody who's asking what's going on. And then, by the way, is it just the headlines that are pushing what is kind of going on right now with all of these other events that are happening around the world? Taiwan all of a sudden comes out and says, oh, yeah, we've had these for, not only now, but over time. We get all sorts of them. Why now they talk about it? You're saying they just ignored huge balloons with satellites on them before? Do you think they just ignore huge objects floating in the sky? I'm sorry, that's just stupid. They believe the people of the world are just absolute morons. And who knows? There are kind of a lot of people that just really are gullible, and whatever it says, they go, oh yeah, that's he has a tie on. Rabble. I might have added the rabble, but again, I think that is a good chunk of people. And then NORAD commander doesn't rule out aliens in spat of unidentified object. New York Times alters story about it. So before we talk about this, I do want to thank everybody over on DLive, Bug Nana, Beer Juice, Scooby Doo Rewrite. It looks like we have pretty much everybody got here by now. Kimbria, Philbilly. Thank you, Renegade PD. We've got, of course, Yobi. Thank you. Joshua D79. Scooby, thank you so much for showing up almost every show. I appreciate that. And then, of course, thank you, user UE8LC, for your super thanks on the last show. I appreciate that. And Neil Nelson, Big KC, Feathers and Flowers. Thank you. Baby Burns Fat. Appreciate your support over on YouTube. Saying thank you for the super thanks. The super chat. Baby Burns Fat says, we are within 200-mile radius of East Palestine. It was windy plus rainy last few days. Our current POS Tweets concert and sporting event fees listing what bridges are important. What the actual F? Multiple derails, mid plus East Coast pipeline leak in West. Yep, with the whole Nevada thing and how diesel and all of that was shortage. How do we know that these are not all attacks or some sort of cyber event that is absolutely causing havoc across our country? We don't. And that's why people are asking questions and they're not going to stop. Bible Talk 777 says AI will be used for tyranny and forced compliance. Yep, it's a perfect tool to track people. It does all the stuff that humans don't want to do, all the paperwork and all of that. They can just have an AI track a person and then put up a little ding sound when they do something that they mark off. Feel like balloons are a FF or maybe a distraction. Bible Talk 777, I actually tweeted, I think yesterday, I think if these balloons are a Fantastic Freddy, that this would win the award for the stupidest Fantastic Freddy in history. And if this actually got us started into a war, I mean, really, yeah, I would think they would have to fudge it in the history books to let our future generations know that this is the stupidity that started it all. And then Patrick McMahon, thank you for the massive support and a super sticker. Again, thank you, Patrick. I appreciate your support, and thank you for supporting Independent. Again, thank you. So the NORAD commander, this is NORAD, doesn't rule out aliens. So how they word that is basically hasn't mentioned it, right? But it says, speaking on a conference call Sunday, Air Force General Glenn Van Herk was asked whether the United States ruled out the possibility that the objects that have been spotted and taken down over North America are extraterrestrial in origin. Yeah, we're tinfoil hat time. The incursions seemed to become so common that the B administration officials have found themselves issuing private assurances that there is no evidence that they involve extraterrestrial activity. But officials also acknowledge privately that the longer they are unable to provide a public explanation for the provenance of the objects, the more speculation grows. So what they're saying is they understand the pattern that the longer they go without saying something, the longer they do with this, the more speculation. And is that guided? Are they making people think that this is, are they purposely fueling this because they know that the public will think it's some sort of extraterrestrial thing and they'll get everybody buzzing about UFOs and things like this? You have to understand, the government at all levels above, anything besides a city council member, they actually look at the stuff as far as like psyops and all of these things. That you think that's in a Reddit conspiracy thing? No. These are real tactics and things that are used by governments around the planet. You can see it everywhere as far as being able to psychologically direct people just as much as you can physically direct people and control people. We know about this throughout all of history. During WW2, WW1. I mean, propaganda is that. So this is just very, very, very odd that they're purposely or maybe maliciously leaving this kind of stuff out. Because you still haven't been able to tell us what these things are that we are taking out of the sky. That raises the question, have you ruled out aliens or extraterrestrial? And if so, why? Because that is what everyone is asking us right now. And the response, I'll let the intel community and the counterintelligence community figure that out. So purposely, I mean, he could just easily say, no, it's not something from Mars. But they purposely didn't do that. I know that some folks actually, I wouldn't put it past, I don't think it's too crazy to have the thought, like, what if this is that the event of things coming down from space? Or what if this is that rumored fake invasion type thing happening right now that so many people have talked about for years? It would be another win in the theorist department of things that actually came true. It's almost like we, are in some sort of B movie, and everybody sees where it's going next. Dex, would you like to comment on that and then actually take over for the baffled U.S. pilots who shot down a mystery object?
Well, yeah. So, this whole notion of it being aliens, I know that's, it's on the mind of enough people. It's not on the mind of most people, but I think enough people think about it. And the fact that they won't just straight up answer the question, and maybe they don't have the answer, or maybe because there's nothing there, or maybe because what is there, they just haven't prioritized getting to it, so they can tell us a straight answer, or they won't tell us at all if it is. So if it is aliens, I don't think they're going to tell us unless they're trying to get some sort of ganda out about it. The other thing I think we also heard reported was that one of the, I want to say it was Huron, actually it took 2 shots to take it down. I think they missed on the first one. So that's kind of insightful. I'm sure that that pilot is going to get some ribbing from his buddies for missing. Don't know what the actual issue there was with that, but that's also interesting to say the least. So, one of these incidents with the balloons, I want to say this was the Alaska incident. They had flown F-35s near it because they had flown them in, and then they later flew the F-22s in. I think the F-22s are who's responsible for taking all of these down. But the pilots, they had reported from the F-35s that they had some sort of interference. So if that's true, that's also very interesting. It's kind of telling what this is. Is there some sort of tech hanging from these balloons, if that's what they are, that's coming from, Xi or some other country that is causing some sort of jamming to the equipment that we're using? Or does that lead back down to the speculation of potential, UFOs with some sort of technology we're not aware of? Or is this just completely new tech? So, it's an interesting observation. It's an interesting report that's coming out. But they said, these F-35 pilots said, hey, they were getting, sensors were being interfered with on their aircraft as they were approaching this particular balloon.
Which, if this was part of some sort of op to make the people think that this is possibly UFO, it would make a whole lot of sense if they made comments like this. When did the military make comments like this at all? You would think this would be classified, and you wouldn't hear the public talking about this. This would be something that would go to their supervisors and stay there, or if anything, go up to the White House and stay there, right? I would be very careful with what we're thinking here. And then, Dex, I'm going to switch you back over. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Glad we have that work, at least a system to overwhelm that roboto voice thing. And then here's why mysterious flying objects are suddenly popping up all over the place, according to the military command that's been taking them down. It says the U.S. Air Force General overseeing a bilateral command has been tasked with defending U.S. and Canadian airspace explained that there's a reason for the mysterious flying objects seen to be suddenly popping up all over the place. The command has changed the way it looks for them and is now finding more of these objects. 4 objects, 1 Chinese surveillance balloon, and 3 other smaller objects, which they still haven't explained what these smaller objects are. Are they drones? I don't understand. Some are saying they're octagonal. Some of them are cylindrical. This is just weird. Were shot down in the span of about a week, and the North American Military Command that's been involved in the taking down of these objects flying over the U.S. said that the uptick in discovery and engagement follows a tweak of its radar filters after the spy balloon drifted across the continental U.S. earlier this month. So after the Chinese balloon went by, they changed their radar settings, and now they're getting maybe lower altitude, maybe different size. I don't know. But that's why they're saying this is their explanation of why they're picking up everything. So, Dex, I guess this is a logical reason why everywhere. But so did they communicate worldwide? Is that why everyone across the world is all of a sudden discovering it? Like, I don't think NORAD does Taiwan.
Well, I think they're using this as a logical explanation as to why the others are finding there. It's also, if that's the case, it's sort of an admission that they weren't able to find the first one as quickly as they should have. And if they're blaming the radar settings, which if you think, I would think that they're probably, the radar was looking for faster moving objects of greater level of density, et cetera, not paying attention to, weather balloons and stuff like that, because they really weren't much of a threat, or at least they hadn't been perceived as one. So they may have had their settings in a position that was really looking for what it traditionally thought was, a threat, like a plane or a missile or, a large object that's moving at a steady pace and, making maneuvers, if you want to say that, or at least following a trajectory. So in this case, changing their settings causes them to see more. And maybe that's because there's more stuff up there that we hadn't know about, and that's what they're going after. Or maybe this is just the excuse they're giving us that allows us to say, oh, okay, that's right. That's okay. They're doing their job.
And by the way, this is yet another place and different angle and different source that have mentioned heightened alert. So a lot of people gave several YouTubers, including Survival Living, CP, and others, crap for saying that we're at heightened alert. I believe we are at heightened alert. Maybe that's on purpose. Maybe that's part of this whole, big op thing. I don't know. But from the amount of military in our group, active and retired, they're all saying the same thing too. They're saying, yeah, they probably would be at heightened alert because what is happening right now. But not to mention, with all of the other events that people aren't really talking about, I'm surprised that the Russian secret satellite busted up into 85 pieces, and really it was just like a headline in the winds, just blew away, and nobody's talking about it. The lasers, why isn't that being questioned harder? That was a one-day article, and nobody's covering it, but yet the balloons thing has gone on for weeks now. Or at least, I don't know when the first one was, but this has been like a week and a half straight of all of the balloon. And when people think balloon, they don't think threatening, right? But I will remind you that the balloon is one of the best delivery systems for an EMP or a nuke. So that's why people were paying attention to it before it even happened. This is what people have been looking for. So very creepy. Let's see here. Lots of really great people in the chat right now. Smokey Joe, a 6.1 earthquake in New Zealand. Dex, can we check to see if there's any, if that's really bad or where that is? There's a lot of earthquake activity in that area, but a lot of the times it's not devastating to the people or depending on the location. Joseph De La Santos said, sorry I'm late, Marf and Dex. Just starting my night shift. Well, no problem. Nice to see you. At least you made it late. Tammy Carver, Aunt Jenny, Shannon Crow. We have Scrappy Dappy Doo, Sperlin Edwards, Double Tappin' Hillbilly. Let's see here. Kathy DeToth, thank you. Mr. R. McGrath, Moody Mom, Michael Berger. Let's see here. Think Star Trek long range. That's a good point. Bobby Sue Fry, Mass Rivers, Thomas C. Bryan. We've got Paul here, retired police officer. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Samoa Hazam, Jessica Kidd. Nice to see you. Aaron Gray, David Murphy, Carol McLean. Says Lemon character moving his head from left to right. Oh, that's the description of the super sticker. That's funny. Thank you, Carol McLean, and thank you for the support. Wolves, 5 eggs. Wrong show. Wolves, then we have Just Ruth, all sorts of great people. Thank you, guys. Thank you for popping by. Mind you, thank you, you just said that you got one. If you guys haven't checked this out, again, I was going to do this after the next article, but this might as well talk about this while we're on the subject. If you haven't already, the reason why we recommend this is because we believe that this may save lives eventually. And it's a good thing as far as to have on a car. If your car is in a specific year range, then if we do have an EMP or even a Carrington level event, your car will be fried and you'll be stuck. So if you plan on bugging out and you're at home, then you're going to be screwed. Or if you're at work and you're planning on bugging in, either way, your car not running is not going to be fun. So they make the EMP shield for cars. They make them for trucks, four-wheelers, motorcycles. You can get them for your boats. You can also get one for your house. The house version has to be wired in. That's actually one of the few ones that has to be wired in by an electrician. But once it is, it will protect within 250 linear feet of where it is wired in. So essentially, a regular size house, everything that's plugged in is going to be protected against an electromagnetic pulse. This means that it's going to ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry everything plugged in, your car, your generators, your ham radios, whichever device you end up getting. They make a device, a different one for almost everything. Then it will still run, or it will still work after EMPs hit all phases, or a solar event. And a solar event will happen. It's a matter of when, not if. So this is definitely a really, really smart thing to do if you can, again, if you do have the ability to pick one up. Otherwise, I would save $5 a week until you can get one on whichever your main vehicle of escape or to get home. I would try to get it. It's very easy to put in the car, 15 minutes or less for anybody can do it. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You're supporting a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made product. You're supporting our show, and you're getting a $50 discount per device. That stacks on top of any sale that they're doing. It's definitely a really, really smart thing to do with all of the different adversaries that are bubbling up right now. It will put you at ease. And then now China claims it is also preparing to shoot down unidentified flying object. What in the flying heck? Dex, do you want to go over this? This is getting absurd.
Well, they're basically blaming the U.S. and saying that because, after we took down their object, they're basically saying, well, the U.S. is putting them over our ports now. So they're saying, and they're asking if anybody sees these objects in the sky, or if they take them down and they see them come down, they're wanting, fishermen or anybody that's in the area, if it's in the water or anywhere else, to try to recover it, to take pictures of it, to try to document it. They're basically making a big deal about this alleged citing, I guess, on their behalf that says that we're sending in, doing the same thing to them that they've done to us. So it's coming from that side of the fence. They're definitely don't release nearly as much information, and even any information that comes out from them is absolutely 100% sponsored by the state and approved by the state. So they're we have to take it with a huge grain of salt. But at the same time, if this is happening there, that I want to ask myself, how does that play into the narrative? And what is this narrative? Well, since we don't know yet, we don't know what the objects are. We don't know much of the details about them. It's kind of hard to necessarily put those pieces together, but it does make sense for them to at least deflect some of the attention away from themselves being the bad guy that put this balloon across America to being the victim, saying, look, they do it to us too.
And this is just weird. They say, if debris fall near your boat, please help take photos and collect evidence. That's like saying, if anything falls down by your, if anything falls down, call the government immediately, right? I just wonder if again, going back to that prior theory, like, what if things are coming out of the sky? Who knows? Heck, this could be stuff from that secret frickin' satellite coming down back into sky. But if you see something, take photos and call us immediately. You'll be a big help. But then they, put a blindfold on them and take them to, secret prison or something. I don't know. I just think this is super weird. If debris fall near your boat, please take photos and collect evidence if conditions allow. Please help salvage it. And why they're saying, like, oh, we're going to shoot down your stuff now. Like, this is something doesn't sit right here. Especially right before the show when this cell outage happened. This was quite creepy. Now, let's see here. I do have this. I was kind of popping it on screen a second ago. I just want to point out, so if you're watching the replay especially, a lot of people comment and they say, hey, I have all services. I never had an issue. I never had a problem. This was in different cities around the country. And so, again, if your service never had an issue, totally fine. But to at least as of when this show started, I was still not able to do any text, cell phone call, nothing without using Wi-Fi. People reported their landlines, their Wi-Fi, their internet, their data, their cell, text, nothing went through. And it happened across the country to all of these companies. Now, mind you, so say you take Mint Mobile. Mint is probably under AT&T. US Cellular might be under Verizon. Simple Mobile, I think, is TNT. T-Mobile. Metro is T-Mobile, right? Boost is probably T-Mobile too, whatever. There's 3 main companies, but all of them had some sort of issue. I mean, it's kind of simple when you look at the spike that obviously something happened right here around 8 p.m. or whenever it was that knocked all this out. And then under here, this usually puts like the top outages at the very top. There's hundreds of things down there, and it will show you like how, Call of Duty's doing and blah, 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 and all these different things. And it even shows you the ones that are just regular and having no problems at all. But all of the top ones, when I could not call or text Dex, I went straight here and I'm like, whoa. All of the top ones, I've never seen that where they're just all cell phones. I mean, look at this. Spectrum, by the way, and Xfinity, they both provide cell phones as well now. So just very odd. And I don't think it's odd. I think that we may be getting attacked right now with cyber events, maybe on smaller scales here and there, and then sometimes maybe big ones. Europe had, we've had several places where they lost 911 ability to call emergency numbers. We've seen internet go out in huge swaths of land, all sorts of things. But it is a heads up. Like, obviously it got back to normal around 8:34, 8:45, something like that. So most people didn't even notice this was happening. But all these major cities, and you saw the dots, which now it's updated, but I ended up taking pictures of all the different places, and it was very, very similar on all of the companies. So what do you think caused that? If you're a cell phone worker, and I'm sure I'm going to get at least one person that's like, I eat and breathe cell phones for breakfast, and this is normal. It happens every 8 o'clock on the 13th of 2023s. Every time we've had 2023 on the 13th, and it's totally normal. I'm just saying, as a regular person, to say it's not registered on a network, to not do a phone call at all, and then to find out that other people across the country are having the same thing, that's spooky. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's nothing? Do you think that somebody dropped a wrench on the wrong box and it knocked out T-Mobile, Metro, Boost, AT&T, Mint Mobile, US Cellular, Verizon, Spectrum, Google? Google was in that. Simple Mobile, FirstNet, all that. I don't know. All right, and then it was like 95% said that they had nothing on all of the different carriers, and they have like mobile, landline, this. It was like 95% said everything. All right, and let's go into the Philippines. Coast Guard accuses China of blinding crew with a military-grade laser. I completely believe this. I know how much lasers have now been implemented in all of the navies. In fact, there's all sorts of new kind of, there's a documentary that's being made right now about all of the new laser tech. These are lasers I talked about at the very beginning of my show. And at the point when I first started this, there was very little known about lasers. In fact, when I started my show, directed energy weapons was a conspiracy. It was only brought out after a DoD official came out and talked about how China and Russia have weaponized space. This was a public press conference that happened 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe even 4. And they said directed energy, they have directed energy weapons and that they've both weaponized space. And this was around the same time period that Space Force commander, all sorts of people were saying, we have a war already going on above us. And these lasers are absolutely crazy. But when I first started, my sister's then at that time boyfriend was working for working for Boeing, and then he ended up getting drafted into the Space Force. They're no longer dating, but he told me about these lasers far beyond when they said that they had them. These lasers are absolutely on a different level. I don't know if you remember when we covered when they did the test for the U.S. lasers, but these things are going to change how conflicts are. I mean, this is some Star Wars type stuff. These lasers can take down planes in a second and then go to the next one and next one and next one. I would not want to be a pilot going up against either the U.S. or China or anybody that, for that matter, that has these lasers. So it does say the Philippines has accused China of blatant disregard and clear violation of sovereignty, alleging that Chinese Coast Guard ship last week directed a military-grade laser light at a Philippine Coast Guard ship in the hotly contested South China Sea. So what we can pick up from this is most likely they saw any ship. They basically used that thing at low power to warn them, go, hey, you're targeted or something. Get out of our waters. This seems very China to do in the South China Sea, especially. They have warned people. They've gotten on their horn, says, this is airspace of China. Please exit. Now they have lasers to go along with it. And then Dex, do you want to talk about Taiwan? Says dozens of Chinese spy craft across its airspace as tensions flare with the U.S.
So in fashion, our ally there, or the one who's hoping that we're going to protect them when Xi tries to take them back over, is now accusing Xi of making dozens of incursions into their airspace with spy balloons. And they're saying that they're very similar to the one that the U.S. has taken out. So, again, this is, why are we seeing balloons now being reported in Xi's country and Taiwan and the US, and where else are they going to pop up next? Is SK going to blame NK, or is Japan going to jump into this bandwagon and say they've got them coming over them? I guess it's still early in the development. I mean, mind you, this story has been going on for over a week now, but it's also still rather infant too. To the point where we're not sure if we're dealing with legitimate issues here, legitimate objects here, or are we dealing with, a narrative that's being built up between a couple of people that are a couple of major nations that are trying to, bring something together around conflict. So it's very frustrating, but it's also another piece of the puzzle. We have to take this and figure out what it means. They're saying that they've had this happen to them too.
Which it's just like all of this is going on. Meanwhile, there are things going on in this very country that are extremely disturbing and have gone almost virtually unnoticed by mainstream up until now. We covered the trains and things. We'll cover that here in a second. So, but British intelligence reveals reasons for Russia's heavy losses. Dex, I'll have you cover this one as well. I'm going to change the camera battery real quick.
So this is coming out of UKR. So again, we always I like to preface that just to make sure you know where the source is. But they're then turning around and saying that UK intelligence is pointing to the Ukrainian General Staff's daily reports on the Vladian military casualties, noting that they cannot verify the methodology, but they emphasize, however, that the trends illustrated by this data are likely accurate. And the mean average over the past 7 days has been 824 casualties per day on Vlad's side. So that's a pretty significant number. Again, you got to take it with a grain of salt, who it's coming from, which side of the fence, so to speak, this is coming out of. So this is UKR's position. They're saying that the UK intelligence is the one who's validating their data, but it is their data, and the UK intelligence says we actually can't validate the data. So again, you see, it's kind of funny the way they circle that together. But this is the message that's basically saying, hey, the losses that Vlad is receiving in the last week are probably as high as they've ever been. Maybe even going back to the original entry into the UKR event back in February 24th of last year.
Yeah, but what if they're losing, what if they're losing 10,000 a day and they're not reporting that? Otherwise, they say, why is this even being said in the first place? Well, the American people and the people in NATO countries basically were all told that, hey, we're supporting the right side here, and we of course, we got to hope that they win this thing, and it's for the world's safety, and that we're supporting them. We're sending billions of dollars. We're sending these packages because we need them to win. And they were losing, and every time they lose, we would send some more money, send some more weapons, send some more tanks, send some more jets, whatever else they're going to send next. We need to send them the Patriot missiles. We need to send all of this. If they're losing, then people are going to be pissed. So we don't know what's accurate at this point, but I would say keep your eyes and ears open at all times. And then exclusive. Ex-Russian military bomber engineer seeks asylum at the U.S. border, offers military secrets. What's going to happen with this? It says that a Russian military bomber engineer drove up to the U.S. southwest border in late December asking for asylum and offering to reveal some of Russia's most closely guarded military secrets, according to an unclassified Customs and Border Patrol protection report obtained by Yahoo News. The man and his family arrived in an armored SUV and asked to be admitted into the U.S. because he feared persecution for participating in an anti-Putin protest in support of Alexei Navalny, an imprisoned Russian dissident. He then told CBP officers that he had information wanted by the U.S. government. He said that it was a civil engineer and that his past employment had included working from 2018 to 21 to a making of a particular type of military airplane at the Tupolev aircraft production facility in the city of Kazan, west central Russia. According to January 11th unclassified CBP report obtained by Yahoo News, he described the aircraft type as an attack jet and said that it was called the White Swan Tu-160. The largest military aircraft. The CBP report is a daily roundup of items compiled by the agency's National Border Security Intelligence Watch and is produced to highlight the emerging trends and notable events for leadership. The center added a comment in bold italics after the paragraph detailing the engineer's arrival and employment, explaining why his information could be valuable. The Tu-160 White Swan, also known by the NATO reporting name as Blackjack, is reportedly the most advanced strategic bomber in the Russian inventory and has also been used in a tactical airstrike role in the UKR conflict. According to open source reporting, a major new construction program of an improved version of the aircraft as well as an upgrade program for the existing aircraft got underway at the Tupolev facility during the past few years. It says unclassified CBP indications and warnings daily. CBP declined to answer Yahoo News questions or otherwise comment, citing agency policy to neither confirm nor speak to potentially improperly disclosed internal documents marked as law enforcement sensitive or official use only. It says an individual working at a defense industry facility such as Tupolev could have access to a range of information on defense industrial production, specifications related to the Tu-160 bomber and its most recently developed modernized variant, various production processes, dependencies, and where their limitations lie, their weaknesses, right? Someone in such a position could accumulate knowledge by virtue of the types of information they are exposed to on the job, some of which could prove valuable. The U.S. continues to lobby allies to send military equipment to UKR. Again, I just want to remind you, the U.S. continues to lobby to get everybody else, hey, let's all do this. Let's all send military equipment to UKR. Details about this particular fighter jet underwent reproductions and upgrades during the time of the engineer's stated employment would constitute valuable information, said a senior military intelligence. It said, would a site manager know if they've modified remodeled bombers to shoot hypersonic missiles? He might, and that would be a really big deal. If the White Swan was retrofitted to fire hypersonic missiles, they are fast and launched from much farther away. It says, we don't have anything that can defend against hypersonic missiles, meaning Patriot systems and all of the rest of what we are supplying UKR. It's useless. So this is what an image of a Tu-160 in flight. It's kind of like their stealth bomber. Would you say that's a good comparison, Dex? It's kind of like their version of the stealth bomber, right?
Yeah, it's their large bomber. And yeah, by the way, it was originally designed in 1970. So if that's their most advanced plane, don't kid yourself, it has been produced many years over. They've got different variations of it, but there has been this long standing rumor that they're updating the Tu-160 M2. They were hoping to have it out in 2021, but then 2022, and I don't know that they've actually released it yet, but that sounds like it lines up with what this guy's saying. But some of that's public knowledge already.
Yeah, we reported about a year ago that they were talking about the new variants of it and how scary it could be. But the point is, if this can fire these undefensible missiles and obviously do all of the other things that it already does, that it wouldn't be good for the U.S., especially if the U.S. gets in a full-on World War III with China and Russia and all of their allies in Iran and North Korea. United States tells citizens depart Russia immediately. Now, I'm going to ask you guys, did you hear about this, by the way, with all of the other stuff going on? Did you actually hear about this story? Some of you probably have. I know that most of you are all followed up on this, but honestly, did you hear about U.S. citizens being told to leave Russia? The United States has told citizens to leave Russia immediately due to the conflict in UKR, the risk of arbitrary arrest or harassment by Russian law enforcement agencies. So there's kind of some hints here. Does that mean they're worried about Russia taking all of these different places? Sounds like they really are coming in force, and they might just be taking big swaths of it. We'll see in the next couple days. It says U.S. citizens residing or traveling in Russia should depart immediately. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow said exercise increased caution due to the risk of wrongful detentions. Do not travel to Russia. So Joseph, Yanni, and Daniel, we've got a smart audience here. It says yes, and Germany too. So do you see what the thing is here? If they're telling them to leave, that's probably a good sign that either Russia's either about to win some parts back, or that something is about to go down. Or it could just be puffing, it could just be a part of propaganda. See several no's as well. But yeah, most of you, good job. Let's see here. Scrappy Dappy Doo says, what the world needs now is love. Sweet love. Vicky Bruick, Bullfrog J, put your faith in Jesus, folks. True hard times inbound. I agree with you. Not from Ohio, but it is a small world and we're all meant to meet for a reason. I believe that as well. Genesis, they will draft everyone up to 64 years old and send to the front lines of the meat grinder. Cindy Kristen says it's a warning. I agree with that as well. Simikim says they'll draft anyone. All are cannon fodder for the greater good of Russia. They always say leave a country before war starts, says BC. Yeah, Dex, as far as them telling people to leave, I'm sure, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
It's not a good sign. It's not. It's not. That doesn't. It's not. It's definitely not a sign that things are going in the right direction. They're definitely headed in the wrong direction. So, this message, I'm kind of shocked that there's a lot of people in America that are still inside Russia, given the amount of tension that's going on, because it's pretty risky, I would think. But obviously, that risk level is at a much higher point at this stage if they're reminding, and they've said this before, but they're saying it at a much higher level now. Get out. So we always say get out before conflict starts in that area, or before we think it's about to start in that area. So very insightful.
Well, we'll see what happens there. And then Ilea says, someone in the Agenda Free TV chat earlier had a theory that is more plausible than aliens. Says cartel trafficking bad substances. Interesting theory. Good night. Ilea, thank you. That is actually very interesting. So
20,000 feet?
At 60,000 feet or 40,000 feet, right? Well, think about
seems pretty high.
Well, you take the things and you put it on there and then it drops on the other side. Well, that would explain why when we popped the one over Myrtle Beach, it busted up into white powder. So, poof. Yeah, it wasn't ricin, it was cocaine. And in other news, everyone on Myrtle Beach is at a rave right now. Stealth Mode, thank you for sharing the most current events. Well, thank you, Stealth Mode, for listening to them. And Carol McLean, thank you for the super sticker. Stephen McMahon says, what? Don't touch it. Your skin might fall off. I don't know why I did anyways. Remember, we have a conflict in space for a long time. The very last phase of it will be the nuclear missiles. Yeah. Well, I hope that I believe that would be the last phase, right? Hopefully we don't get to the last phase anytime soon, though. Simply Pony says, sup, motherfooglers, a lot going on, heads on a swivel. Well, Simply Pony, good point there. And then thank you, Carol McLean, again for the super sticker there. Hands clapping. And then Daddy Prepper says, the day the earth stood still vibes, save. I literally was going to say the exact same thing. With Keanu Reeves, where all of these objects came and hovered over the world. There's other movies exactly like that as well. I believe, no, it wasn't War of the Worlds. Oh, the War of the Worlds, the TV series did that, the newer one that's on Amazon. But yeah, there was several where these objects show up in cities around the world and they just hum there. But the day the earth stood still had that object and then that 50-foot tall robot that came out of it, and all of these objects were like hibernating there, and they released that thing. I totally hear you on that one. And then Toxic Town, quote, basically nuked, where animals are now perishing after the train came off the tracks. So right when this started, I told you everybody on TikTok had videos that looked like mushroom clouds. I mean, like really, really insane photos of what happened here. And honestly, this picture says a lot as well. I mean, look at this. Mind you, there's all sorts of speculation going on about this actual event. This looks like a straight up scene from White Noise. If you still haven't seen that, that's how you know. I've been talking about White Noise for like a week and a half about how this is very, very similar. Jacob Israel made a connection, said that, there was a movie much older than that called Super 8mm or 8mm. That movie also had the same kind of plot in it. But White Noise had this very like dark comedy, kind of dark humor view on this thing. And that's where the title comes from, Feathery Plume. So when it first happens in the movie, they call it a feathery plume, and they're like, feathery plume. And this movie, by the way, is like that kind of back and forth, really quick scripting where feathery plume. Are you sure it's a feathery plume, or is it a billowing cloud? And they go back and forth, but it's actually got this undertone of very spookiness. It's like funny, But at the same time, the way it was put together, it was almost, talk about predictive programming. They even talk about all of the real agencies. They have posters in the background, and more people are pointing this out in white noise. They had posters out, and they look like, it says toxic air vent. And then they said, oh, well, this won't hurt you, and it's not going to harm you. And then they even went through the symptoms on the movie. They said, well, they just say it will cause skin irritation and bother your eyes. Oh, but now they're saying it's this, and now they're saying it's that. That's what's happening in real life. Because at first, they literally said, oh, cause skin irritation and this. And now they're saying it might have gotten into the water supply. This is why I said, anybody that's living anywhere, doesn't have to be Ohio, you should have extra water. It's something we take for granted until we don't have it. The big thing that people were talking about, and I don't know if this might be something that's really hit. Reporters have been getting arrested, and all sorts of weird events have been going on around this. People have been booted off of the Tweetsters. It says vinyl chloride was released into the air from 5 of those cars before crews ignited it. And they talk about how this is it's a liquid. When it's compressed, it turns into it's gas. When it's compressed, it turns into a liquid. And then when it's released, it reverses. And that it's highly flammable. And they said that they did kind of a controlled demolition type thing, and they burnt it all up, which, by the way, was in white noise as well. They showed explosions, and they're like, oh, well, they're trying to burn it off. Very spooky how close that is to this thing in a small town where a truck hits it and it derails. Anyways, so why everybody is talking about this now is that this is becoming a huge deal. They're saying that it may have gotten into the Ohio River, where 5 million people get their water supply. So I'm going to go over to the chat, see what you guys are saying about this. It's very, very, very uncovered as far as nobody's talking about this, or at least weren't for the first week. Meanwhile, independents have not stopped asking questions, and somehow this was not on the front page every single day. It was on the back page, and they would kind of give these little updates. But some believe that certain agencies were kind of making this into a Chernobyl type thing, where they're like, oh, it's totally fine, it's safe, it's this and that. Well, not everybody believes that. Let's see here. Vinyl chloride is used to make PVC, like PVC pipes. I didn't know that. Let's see, probably pesticide, Roundup, or other words. Well, they say there's carcinogens in it. Everybody's taking their 30 pieces of silver to set humanity up like Judas did to Jesus. This chemical turns into hydrochloric acid when it mixes with water. I don't know if that's true, but that's freaky. By the way, they have video on local news agencies showing fish just floating to the surface. Like it's taken all sorts of damage points here. Dex, was this one, and I'm getting confused now, there's 3 derailments. Was this one started by a truck, or did this happen on its own? Do we remember?
That's a great question. I don't remember what the exact cause of this one was. I do know there was a story I saw that said the wheels on this train were seen on fire miles before the derailment. So it could be that it was something mechanical. I'd have to go back and check, because it's like we said, this happened over a week ago now. But this is definitely cause for concern, especially the fact that people were told to evacuate, and then they're coming back in, and they're telling them they can come back in, and they're saying, don't worry. And it's kind of, it'd be very frustrating if you live there, and it's also very frustrating for anybody that lives downstream, either downwind or downstream, in this case, to down the Ohio River. From this too, because these effects are this is the type of thing that you're gonna see the effects of later, and you won't know it. And you might see somebody a lawyer on TV saying join this class action, but that's not going to solve the problem that all these people that are going to suffer over time down the line as cancers break out or other things happen from the damage that this may have caused.
Well, something most definitely is not right with it. There have been Twitter Spaces. I believe daily for at least 3 days, people are talking about the different kind of reasons why this is not okay. I believe the Spaces I listened to 2 nights ago or last night, that one was very interesting because they did have some really, really incredible people chime in on the subject. Could this be one of the worst environmental disasters we've ever seen? Personally, I think that there will be worse when Cascadia hits and all of the buildings be wiped out to sea with all of the nasty chemicals in that. But up to this day, maybe. We don't know yet. A lot of people think that this is not being covered like it should be. And then lightning strikes Brazil's Christ the Redeemer statue. Pic stuns the internet. Oh, yeah. So, by the way, daily, we just have a sign from God that people ignore. That's all. Dex, look at that. I mean, look at that.
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
Or however many words are in the Bible. Wow. 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 That's just, I mean, by the way, I wonder, how many times has lightning hit that thing, right? Has it hit multiple times? Is this something that happens? I'm sure there'll be a Christ the Redeemer expert out there. I'll go, I eat Christ the Redeemers for breakfast, and it happens every February 13th on every 2023. I don't know, but
it probably does. It's just that somebody caught the this picture, but it's probably happened before. I haven't researched it, but I got to believe.
Well, the Space
like
Needle's been hit a bunch, and some of the best photographers in Seattle, they've tried for years. I knew a lot of photographers that, would sit and camp out during every thunderstorm and just hope. And they did it for 25 years until they caught that one pic. And then once they get the lightning pic, and by the way, I knew photographers that would sit in like Cary Park, wait for the thing during a bad storm, and then barely miss it by half a second. And it's like 20 years they would wait. They'd get, it happens, and they miss it by half a frame or something. But then I knew ones that would catch it. So if big objects like that, do they get struck all the time? Either way, personally, with everything that's going on right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we're getting some signs of the times. And then asteroid hits Earth in magnificent spectacle over Europe. See what I mean? I'm like, says, while the U.S. was busy celebrating the Super Bowl on Sunday night, Europeans had their own spectacle. Early Monday morning, a bright flash streaked across the skies over Western Europe as an asteroid discovered just hours earlier made impact with Earth's atmosphere. It says the asteroid dubbed wait a second. Did they really name it SAR-2? Isn't that what CV is named or something? Anyways, the first detected on the evening of February 12th. This thing was discovered last night by astronomer Christian Sarnecki in Hungary. He told Space.com that he found the asteroid during a routine near-Earth object hunt using a 2-foot telescope. So, by the way, the whole last week, people were talking about this big green comet that you could only see every 50,000 years. I've just, so many weird references to meteors and asteroids have been going on right now. And I think Elon even made a comment more recently, like in the last couple days, about, survival of human beings and some weird thing that he said. But and then all of these balloons and airspace getting shut down, all these weird events. people, the sun. I put a couple tweets out about how all of these weird events, and I tried to, I piled up as much as I could think of off the top of my head. And someone said the two out of them, like the sun having a chunk of it break off and have a polar vortex. A lot of scientists said that was unprecedented in the papers. A lot of people actually said, they responded to that, said that, I think it was Ben Davidson says that it happens, it's not so unique. Also said something about that the Earth's pole, or the Earth's core, hasn't stopped. So both of those, I believe, come from his theory that they have slowed down, and I believe he has some stuff on that. But either way, if it's stopped or if the sun is having these weird events, one thing I've noticed is there's been these weird events like planes almost crashing into each other. And it's like all over the place. And we've seen, if you go to Twitter, you can see the actual radar. Flight radar shows a plane on the runway, and then it shows a bigger plane at the same place, and they're overlapping. And apparently it happened in real life where the one plane was right on top of the other. Why are these communications errors happening? The derailments, the planes almost crashing and heading each other off. Like, we have systems that have always worked for this. Historically, we have, flight radar, and we have the flight controllers and all of this. All of a sudden, these things are not working. Is that a cyber event, or is there something else going on with, electronics, or what? But there's also these asteroids that keep getting discovered hours before they hit or hours before they pass. It kind of makes you wonder if the folks that are saying that we're in a debris field are right. We talked to a woman who was in a financial position, approved things, basically an administrative position, approving funding for different governmental projects. And what she said is she saw the approval for funding for debris cleanup from a Class 2 gas giant, and the amount was so big, it was like unlike anything she had ever seen before. As if like the world was going to end kind of cleanup. Dex, do you remember that? And we vetted her position and where she worked and everything else.
Yes, I remember that.
And that was how many years ago? 3 years ago?
Yeah, at least 2, if not 3.
And it makes you wonder about all of the little things that they're doing, starting Asgardia, trying to get off Earth, trying to speed up the process of getting to Mars. Just recently, Elon Musk keeps testing this, this big effing rocket. At the same time, we've got Apophis and all these weird things happening. Observatories getting shut down. The Sunspot Observatory, something doesn't sit right with that. Blackhawks and Chinooks coming into it and shutting down an observatory for weeks, shutting down the post office nearby because they say, oh, he's running a kiddo thing, right? That could be, but that also is one thing that we've also covered in articles, and CIA agents have said that they can now put that onto people's computers. They can also basically frame anybody with that because that's a very good tool. Think about this. If you had information on the Gov and they came to you and said, hey, boom, check your computer, and then all of a sudden there's all this stuff that they put there. Would you still go out and bust the story out, or would you just be quiet for the rest of your life? Or they threaten you with life imprisonment or go to Guantanamo Bay or something like that. Who knows? Amazon ZooX Robotaxi now giving rides to employees on public roads in California. So more of just an update of where these things are kind of popping up, and they say within a couple years now we're going to have autonomous vehicles all over the place, vehicles with no drivers, driving at speeds of 60 miles per hour, 80 miles per hour, whatever it may be on whatever highway, and giving people rides from place to place. With all of these cyber events that have been going on, and how now you've got actual officials trying to get laws passed to put in a remote shutdown to every car in the world, if the car detects that you are a drunk driver or a tired driver, that it won't let you drive many patriots look at that and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. We don't want anybody being able to control the on and off switch for our car. Well, that's what they're trying to require. And it makes me think, if they can control autonomous driving and everything goes autonomous, and the cars that you do have on the road, and you have enough money to buy one of the fancy cars that drives itself, you can drive, they could still turn it off if they wanted to. But I guess nobody will be driving because we'll all be in 15-minute cities pretty soon here, right? It says the vehicle will have no steering wheel or pedals and have bi-directional driving capabilities and four-wheel steering, enabling it to change directions without the need to reverse. That's kind of a trick, Dex. So the wheels, the back wheels and the front wheels, it will basically be like a shopping cart or something.
Yeah, this is and it's early phase, but this is out, so it's shuttling the employees on a 1 mile trip between two buildings. But here's the interesting thing: in California, where they allow all of this autonomous testing to go underway, they have something called disengagement reports. This is how they report it. And so basically, when the autopilot is disengaged and someone has to take over the steering wheel and control the vehicle, they have to report that and they have to keep track of it. Well, because this one doesn't have that, they don't get to they don't have to file disengagements. So instead, they have what you would think of as a drone operator back at headquarters that has the ability to see everything that's going on. So should it have a problem and need to have input from a human because it doesn't know what to do, they actually do that from headquarters and they remotely control it. Or worst case scenario, they pull it over. But it's kind of interesting because it's a loophole where they don't actually have to report their disengagements, where the other companies like GM, Tesla, and others that are doing this have to report their disengagements.
And they report it because they're basically saying, hey, the car messed up here, so human had to take control, otherwise it was going to do something stupid. This is a crazy, crazy time we are living in. I mean, I'm part of the last generation that didn't have a cell phone growing up. Of course, I had it in my, later when I was late teens, people started to have them a lot, but I mean, it's just been the last 15, 20 years that these things really took off. And it's crazy to even say that it's now 2023. But now it's like everything is just going faster and faster and faster. And it seemed incremental at first, but now it's like every day there's something just totally taking off. I mean, remember when, 80s movies looked at the future and, Back to the Future said 2015 we would have flying cars. They weren't that far off. We're going to have flying taxis, autonomous taxis, drones, and autonomous cars. But people have to look past why are they doing it? Why, who will this benefit other than the planet, right? All right, and Daddy Prepper, thank you again. I appreciate your support tonight. Theta Hamundme says, Nick Zentner of Central Washington University, great earthquakes of Pacific Northwest on YouTube. Very informative and clears up some misunderstandings about Cascadia. Seen it. I believe I've talked to Nick Zentner, but he would not come. He wouldn't do video stuff, at least not with us. I also did an interview on. I also did a long interview, hour and a half, with Chris Goldfinger, one of the lead seismologists on Cascadia Subduction Zone. I believe Toast is in the title, but if you go to our website at marfooglenews.com, you can actually type in up to the upper right-hand corner. You can go and type in Chris Goldfinger. Oh, let me type in just Goldfinger. Oh, you have to just go to YouTube. That was farther back before we had the website. But if you do go to YouTube, you can do that. And I highly suggest you also go watch Redacted's video. Go over to marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. One thing that I really found pretty amazing is that Chris Goldfinger, who's been on so many documentaries, he is very alarmed at what is going on right now, and he is one of the few people and the most recognizable that has said it's going to be a shite show. It's going to be really, really bad. Let's see here. Huh. God, the algorithm is so messed up. I think I have to do... And then... Yeah, here we go. This, I believe, has the links for it, but this was a part of my... Let's see here. See if I can turn the volume up on this. This little clip was so good. Let's see. What am I missing here?
I just happened to be watching. But you're right about the military. I was kind of taken aback by how, how deep a level they're into it at, and sort of a very unpublic way. I just happened to be walking around the harbor, the Newport, Oregon boat basin one day, and this big landing craft comes steaming into the bay, pulls up to the public boat ramp, drives up the boat ramp, and spills out some ambulances and a bunch of people. And
wow.
I'm just kind of going, what's going on? And so, they're having a earthquake and tsunami drill. And I'm going, no kidding, really? I'd never heard of this thing at all. And so it turns out there's this aircraft carrier sitting offshore, and they put these landing boats in, and just driven into Newport Harbor unannounced to have a little practice drill. It never made the newspapers, never showed up anywhere. And it's just like, oh, okay, that's really cool.
Sorry about that. My intro has always scared the crap out of people, including myself that time. But yeah, that was a really interesting interview, and I had to go off on that for a second because there have been they moved a lot of nuclear submarines and ships, and again, I do question if that was because of the whole balloon thing. It happened at the same time frame that the balloon was supposedly over kind of the Washington, Bremerton area, but they said it was because of they were moving it temporarily because of serious seismic concerns. Now, the Northwest, when you talk about seismic concerns, you're talking about Cascadia subduction zone. Very, very scary thing. But yeah, if you have not already, if you are in the Northwest, I would heavily recommend watch Toast, Tsunamis, and The Really Big One. And also read The Really, Really Big One by the, I think it wasn't the New York Times, it was the New Yorker. That article is what woke me up about it, and the information they know now is just absolutely terrifying because they didn't know about it 35, 40 years ago. And we built metropolises all along the West Coast in an area where we're going to have a 120-plus foot now known tsunami from Canada to California. That's absolutely insane. It's going to be... it's going to be much bigger than I think. Even if Ohio ends up to be big, this will be bigger. All right, and then Dex, let's go over the web only. We have a lot of crazy stuff here.
We certainly do. Head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or if you're on YouTube or Rumble, just open up the description and click on the show notes link. It'll take you right here. You'll get to all the news we covered. Then you get this yellow bar. That's the overflow and the rest of the story. Lots of things happening. There's continuations on the balloons. So if you want more updates on that, there's a few things talking about maybe some of the descriptions, additional descriptions of what they saw, and what maybe even a potential hot spot they're calling in G's country. It's an opinion piece, so take a look if you want to see some more of the coverage on that. We also have a little bit of coverage in the political spectrum here, like we always do. So what's been going on with that? Some updates from things going on with orange juice, of all things. So apparently Florida may be running out of it. So if you want to know what's happening there, expect to see those prices going up, just like we saw eggs. That'll be next. Do have some additional coverage with Vlad and what's going on in UKR. All of that's there, as well as additional coverage around the train incident in Ohio. That is there as well. Elon is in the news. The Eagles fans are in the news, obviously because they lost, but more so because of what they did at their march, and they got in trouble for that. They shouldn't. They got a little unruly. I guess they were upset. I guess they should be upset. They didn't win. Speaking of Super Bowl, there's also there was this one of many commercials. There's a ton of commercials in there that were crazy, but one of them we had earlier in, which was the Octung baby from U2. But the other one was about Elon, and specifically about how Tesla cars were allegedly killing children. And that was the claim. That video, if you didn't see that commercial because you didn't watch it, the Super Bowl, or you missed that particular commercial, it's on the website, so you can go look at it. Kind of crazy. It goes hand in hand with the autonomous car we were talking about just a moment ago. But they basically tried to prove that the autonomous driving doesn't actually work. And it was literally running over these fictitious kids that they were putting in the middle of the street. So NK has got some crazy stuff going on. He is Kim Jong-un is actually making residents in the country change their name if any of them have the same name as his daughter. Talk about wielding power. Everyone must change their name if it's the same name as his daughter. So kind of crazy. That and so much more. Elon's Starlinks could cause, the great third conflict. That's what he's suggesting by it. That's why he was pulling that out. So that story's there if you want more updates on it. Even updates on the cartel and a major arrest of somebody that was pushing the stuff across the border. So hopefully that'll help, but I doubt it because that door is like wide open. I don't know why we would need balloons to send that over via Canada when you can just walk in from the southern side. That's what they do every day, wide open. But yes, all of that news plus so much more, it's right there on the website. Go take a look, marfooglenews.com. If you don't know how to get there, open up the description on YouTube or Rumble and click on the show notes link. It'll take you right to this page.
Now, I want to point out this NK thing. One thing, when we first started covering this daughter, it's almost like he found out about this daughter recently. Like, why would he do this now? Isn't she like 9, 10 years old or something? It's almost like, that the rumors around him is that he's been with like 50,000 women and possibly the other side. All of these people, he parties. Dennis Rodman says that it's just party. When he goes there, they do anything and everything, right? I just wonder maybe if one of the women that he was with or something, like he found out way later, like, oh, this is your kid, and like, because now he's like, this is my daughter, oh, I got a beautiful daughter, and now he's making everybody change their name if it happens to be, because they have very common, the same name structures and everything, so I'm sure a bunch of people have to change their name now. Why wouldn't he do that when she was born? It's just weird. And even, yeah, I guess you could say maybe because he didn't want the public to know that he had one because of, attempts on her life or something. I don't know. But also, it just, something doesn't right. Is she adopted? Did he handpick her from just regular people because he thinks, oh, that will be my next one? It's just weird. Anyways, the article's all there. Dex, go ahead.
Well, his wife apparently at that missile display that they had at the parade apparently wore a pendant that was made out of that was made in the shape of a missile, and so she was there with the daughter.
Well, yeah, but that could be just his current wife. That could just be who she's with. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the mom of her, right? I don't know. And I don't think they care about him being married to one person over time or something. It's not like, in U.S. politics, in the old school days, it was like if a politician had a good family, a good wife, you had to have the whole kit and caboodle. I don't think they care too much about that in North Korea, but who knows? Maybe they do. Theta Moonme, thank you so much for your support again. I appreciate that. Daddy Prepper. And then the lifeboat. Hey, man, thank you. You don't have to do that, though. Thank you so much. Thanks, Adam and Dex and mods. Well, thank you. And again, thank you for saying thanks to the mods. Baby Burns Fat, thank you so much. And then Patrick McMahon. I appreciate your support. And thank you all for stopping by tonight. Honorable mentions, by the way, thank you, B-Roll Beast, Scenic Adventures, Neil Nelson, thank you, John Burnham, Joanna's Adventures, Vibron, Celtic Warrior, thank you, and Kay Holmes, Kingdoms of Urdon, and Kara Fuse. Appreciate all of you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting Independent. We do appreciate it, so thank you. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Mods, thank you for your service tonight. And thank you, everybody. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro.
A billowing cloud, bring it on up, bring it on up now. Like a black billowing cloud, bring it on up, bring it on up now. Like a billowing cloud.
All right, we're going to do a new one for Patrick McMahon.
Patrick, McMahon. Patrick, Patrick, oh man. Patrick, Patrick, McMahon. Patrick, I said Patrick, McMahon. Patrick,